Let's begin. Here are the threats. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes pawn. The checks are: queen to b6, check. Queen to c5, check. Bishop to c5, check. Solution to the puzzle is: queen to c5, check. King to h1. Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes bishop. Queen takes bishop. Let us go to the next puzzle. Threats in this position are: there are no threats in this position. Here are the checks. Rook to f2, check. Queen to e5, check. Queen to e4, check. Queen to g4, check. Queen to e3, check. Queen to f2, check. Queen to d3, check. Queen to d2, check. Queen to d1, check. Queen to b2, check. Queen to c4, check. Answer to this puzzle is: rook to f2, check. King to e1. Queen to d2, checkmate. Next, threats in this position are: there are no threats in this position. Checks in puzzle position are: knight to d5, check. Bishop to a3, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop to a3, check. King to e8. Rook takes rook. Bishop takes rook. Bishop takes rook. Another puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: queen takes pawn, check. Pawn takes pawn. The checks are: queen takes pawn, check. Knight to f3, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen takes pawn, check. King to f2. Queen to f3, check. King to e1. Knight to g2, checkmate. Next, here are the threats. Knight takes pawn, check. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes pawn. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight takes pawn, check. Knight to e2, check. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen to d1, check. Queen to c1, check. Queen to b1, check. The puzzle is solved using: knight to e2, check. King to h2. Queen to d1. Knight to d7, check. King to e7. Let's continue. The threats are: pawn takes pawn. Knight takes knight, check. Knight takes pawn. Checks in this position are: knight to d6, check. Knight takes knight, check. The best move in puzzle position is d6. Knight takes bishop, check. Pawn takes knight. Queen to b6. Pawn takes bishop. Let us go to the next puzzle. The threats are: knight takes pawn, check. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight takes pawn, check. Knight to b3, check. The best move in puzzle position is: knight takes pawn, check. King to d1. Knight takes rook. Let's see the next puzzle. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are: pawn takes pawn, check. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes queen. Checks in puzzle position are: pawn takes pawn, check. Solution to the puzzle is: pawn takes pawn, check. Pawn takes pawn. Queen takes queen. Pawn takes queen. Rook to d7, check. King to g6. Rook takes bishop. Another puzzle. Here are the threats. Rook takes pawn. There are no checks in this position. The puzzle is solved using: c6. Pawn takes pawn. b7. Pawn takes rook. Promotes to queen, check. Next puzzle. Threats in puzzle position are: bishop takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Here are checks in puzzle position. Rook to f2, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to f2, check. King to h3. Queen to f3, check. King to h4. Rook to h2, check. King to g5. Queen takes pawn, checkmate. Next, here are threats in puzzle position. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes pawn, check. Queen takes knight. Queen takes knight. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Knight to f3, check. Queen takes pawn, check. The best move in puzzle position is: knight to g4. Queen takes pawn, check. Rook takes queen. Let us go to the next puzzle. Here are threats in puzzle position. There are no threats in this position. The checks are: rook to b8, check. The puzzle is solved using: king to g3. Rook to h1. Rook takes rook. Next, here are the threats. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen takes rook, check. The checks are: queen takes rook, check. Queen to e1, check. Queen to b1, check. Answer to this puzzle is: queen takes rook, check. King takes queen. Pawn takes queen. One more, let us look at threats in puzzle position. Rook takes rook, check. Checks in this position are: rook takes rook, check. The best move in puzzle position is: rook takes rook, check. Rook takes rook. Queen takes bishop. Next, let us look at threats in puzzle position. There are no threats in this position. Checks in puzzle position are: knight to b6, check. Knight to f6, check. The puzzle is solved using: knight to f6, check. King to c8. Rook takes rook. Next puzzle, threats in puzzle position are: there are no threats in this position. Here are checks in puzzle position. Rook to e8, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Rook to e8, check. King to g7. Rook to g1. Let us go to the next puzzle. Puzzle position vulnerabilities are: queen takes rook. Bishop takes pawn. Let us look at checks in puzzle position. Queen to g4, check. Queen to c1, check. Answer to this puzzle is: queen takes rook. Queen to a8, check. Bishop to f8. Another one, the threats are: queen takes knight. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. Solution to the puzzle is: knight takes bishop. Queen takes queen, check. Knight takes queen. Another puzzle, the threats are: queen takes knight. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen to d3, check. Queen to d1, check. The answer is: queen to d3, check. King to c1. Bishop to b2, checkmate. One more, the threats are: queen takes bishop. Pawn takes bishop. Pawn takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Here are checks in puzzle position. Knight to f3, check. Knight to e2, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Queen takes bishop. Next, let us look at threats in puzzle position. Rook takes bishop. Queen takes pawn, check. Here are the checks. Queen takes pawn, check. Here is the solution to the puzzle. Bishop to c5. Rook to d3. Rook takes bishop. Next puzzle, here are the threats. Queen takes bishop. Queen takes knight, check. Pawn takes knight. Rook takes knight. Here are checks in puzzle position. Queen takes knight, check. The best move in puzzle position is: queen takes knight, check. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. Let's see the next puzzle. The threats are: rook takes knight, check. Pawn takes bishop. Pawn takes pawn. Queen takes knight, check. Queen takes rook. Queen takes pawn. The checks are: rook takes knight, check. Queen takes knight, check. Queen to f4, check. Queen to e3, check. Queen to c2, check. Queen to b1, check. The answer is: rook takes knight, check. King to d2. Queen takes pawn, check. Next puzzle, threats in this position are: there are no threats in this position. There are no checks in this position. The puzzle is solved using h6, a2, h7. One more, threats in this position are: knight takes knight. Queen takes bishop. King takes bishop. There are no checks in this position. The best move in puzzle position is: knight takes knight. Bishop takes queen. Knight takes queen. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.